Today we're discussing some updates on the White House Correspondents Dinner shooting and Iran's economic collapse. We also get into the FBI raiding daycares in Minnesota. All that and more right now. Welcome back to the Republic Brothers podcast. He's Matt, I'm Mike. Today is April 29th, and this is episode 53. Please hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss our next episode on Monday. Now, Matt, before we get into anything else, I want to go over some updates and headlines on the White House Correspondents Dinner shooting. We played a 60-second clip from an 11-minute video on the violent rhetoric from the left in our last episode. Now, we should have mentioned this clip because this is Jimmy Kimmel trying to be funny during a skit just 2 days before that shooting occurred at that dinner.
I do want to praise the POTUS. Look how far you've come. 30 years ago, you were just some rich guy on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet out of Teterboro, but you worked hard, you stayed friends, you shared some wonderful secrets, and because of that, you were able to fly on that plane 7 more times. Dreams really do come true. Am I right, Dog the Bounty Hunter? That's right. We miss you so much. And, of course, our First Lady, Melania, is here. Look at Melania. So beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Now, as you heard in the clip, Jimmy makes a joke about Trump being connected to Jeffrey Epstein, which I think is kind of ironic considering Aaron Rodgers did the same thing to Jimmy Kimmel a while back, and Jimmy threatened to sue Aaron Rodgers over that joke. Glass houses, Jimmy. Then he calls Melania an expectant widow 2 days before the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Call that bad timing for Jimmy, but he's got to stop trying to be funny. It is not working. Imagine going up to some random woman on the street who's walking with her husband, and you say to her what Jimmy Kimmel said about Melania. Look this woman in the eye in front of her husband and say, "You're glowing like an expectant widow." Do you really think that joke is going to go over well? Kimmel would be threatening a lawsuit if Trump said that about his wife. And I know he says he said it because Trump is 80 years old. That was his defense for it. But he didn't make that joke about Joe Biden. He only did it because it's Trump and he doesn't like him.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel and the left play by different rules. It's rules for thee, but not for me. I really don't have any issues with what Jimmy Kimmel said. It was bad timing, and Kimmel didn't know this was going to happen. And he's right. You can't deny Donald Trump is old, especially compared to Melania. The average life expectancy for men is 76 and a half years old. I certainly hope Trump is with us for many decades to come, but the math says that's probably not going to be the case. I would like us to get back to a day when comedians can say anything about anyone, but it's hard to see that happening, especially when the comedian making the jokes about others dying threatens lawsuits anytime someone makes a joke about him. It really is puzzling. How long does ABC leave this guy on the air? He's a comedian who just hasn't made a funny joke in a long time. We know he's a left-wing hack who parrots the left's talking points. Why they keep putting up with it, I don't know, because their ratings are terrible. I guess they don't mind losing tens of millions of dollars a year, though.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw either that the FCC, I think they opened some kind of review, like an early review or something, and they're reviewing a bunch of Disney's platforms over their DEI stuff, basically.
I did see it. I just don't think anything's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I don't expect anything to come out of it either. I also saw this clip from Xaviaer DuRousseau talking about political violence from the left. Check this out.
So another radical leftist tried to shoot Trump last night, and I think it's time that we have an honest conversation that the Democratic Party has not become violent, they've always been violent. Let's just unpack every president that has been shot and what their party affiliation was. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, James A. Garfield was a Republican, William McKinley was a Republican, Theodore Roosevelt was a Republican, JFK was a Democrat, but a Kennedy Democrat we all now refer to as a modern Republican, and guess who shot him? A Marxist, the same ideology that's behind BLM. Ronald Reagan was a Republican, and Donald Trump is a Republican. The same party that's constantly talking about taking away all of our guns is the same party that's constantly using them in the improper way. They don't use it for defense. They don't use it to stop a tyrannical government from taking over. They're using it to inflict harm, to commit crimes, and to take the life of people that they disagree with.
I think Xaviaer sums that up perfectly. He is not wrong one bit. Every time we hear about a shooting like this, we all know what everyone is thinking. How many Democrats heard the news about this shooting and immediately thought to themselves, oh no, I hope it wasn't us again? I know most of them are out there, but there's at least a few, like Bill Maher, maybe Stephen A. Smith, that were like, oh my God, please not again.
I don't think they think like that. I think they say the Republican deserved it. Xavier's spot on with that take. Fact check true, as Ben Shapiro would say. We've talked about this many times before, but the left loves to accuse Republicans of all the things they do, then deny the fact that they do it themselves. Remember when DEI was in schools, as an example? They said it wasn't being taught in school, and when Republicans said, great, let's make sure it's not taught in school, they said, hell no. We can't do that. They knew it was already in schools, and they did not want to stop teaching it. They accuse the right of political violence all the time. You can't criticize the left or its violent tactics, but they use guns to shoot people, but that doesn't count because they didn't do it. Deny everything you can and silence the people who point out what you do.
Yeah, and Xaviaer is not the only one who notices the pattern. We all see it.
How many bullets did Barack dodge? No one tried to assassinate him, Biden, Clinton. Bullets are only flying in one direction. Ronald Reagan was shot at the same hotel in '81. They killed Charlie. They shot a hole in Steve Scalise. Rand Paul's neighbor cracked his ribs, tackled him from behind, his own neighbor. They tried to kill Kavanaugh. They firebombed Teslas. BLM burned down entire city blocks. Antifa lays siege to courthouses. Luigi Mangione murdered a healthcare CEO, and the left fell in love. It's not just left-wing violence. There's a fan base for it. 27% of Democrats feel violence against Republicans is justified. 22% of young liberals say they'd be happy if their political opponent died. This isn't a tiny group of people. Large factions on the left are into violence and death.
There's a brewery in Wisconsin. The Minocqua Brewing Company says everyone gets free beers if someone successfully kills Trump. They are actively rooting for someone's death. That is the type of person the left caters to. When 50% of Democrats think words are violence, they do not see grabbing a gun and shooting someone as an escalation.
I did not know that about the brewing company. That is crazy. Imagine if we did the same thing.
Yeah, they went on Twitter and said that when someone successfully kills him, everyone gets free beer. But since it wasn't successful, it was obviously staged.
Yeah. Well, here was Caroline Leavitt's press conference on the rhetoric from the left and on the shooting itself.
These are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years, and so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time." Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying, "We'll see you in the streets." Rep. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, "We will not take this shit from Donald Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war." These are Democrat elected officials calling for war against the President of the United States and his supporters. I could go on and on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally ill. Saturday was supposed to be a joyful evening, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment with all of you, members of the press. Instead, the night was hijacked by a crazed anti-Trump individual who traveled across the country to assassinate the president and as many administration officials as possible. This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years. No other president in history has faced such repeated, serious attempts on his life. First and foremost, the president, the first lady, and everyone in this White House are extraordinarily grateful to the brave law enforcement professionals who sprang into action to apprehend the would-be assassin and keep all of us safe. The president would especially like to express his gratitude to the men and women of the United States Secret Service who acted with the utmost professionalism, courage, and sense of duty. This includes the heroic agent who took a bullet to the chest. Thankfully, he was saved by his bulletproof vest. Minutes after returning here to the White House to the Oval Office, despite fighting Secret Service to try to stay and keep the dinner going on Saturday, ahead of addressing you here in the briefing room, President Trump was intent on speaking to this brave agent to ensure he was okay, and the agent assured the president that he was. As you know, I was seated next to President Trump and the First Lady when the shots were fired before Secret Service swiftly moved us to safety backstage. The president's calm in the face of chaos, while yet another individual was trying to take his life, was really remarkable to witness, and it's something I will never forget. President Trump is fearless because he loves this country, and he is willing to put his own life on the line to deliver on the promises that he made to the American public who elected him here into the highest office in the land.
So, yes, Democrats, tell me again how President Trump is the problem. Every single thing they say about him is either a flat-out lie or can be quickly disproven. Every single one of their arguments has holes in it and falls apart the moment you start to challenge it. Just like we've said on this podcast many times, the very things they accuse Trump of doing are the things they participate in on the regular. For example, trying to silence your opposition by killing them. This reminds me of a comment we got on one of our YouTube shorts. The video we posted was about how it's dangerous being the president, and in the video you said it's crazy that it's so dangerous coming from your own people. Someone commented on the video saying that it wouldn't be dangerous if he was a good person. That might be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Imagine if the world started running around killing people because of someone's opinion.
And how many of the people that said that have ever even been in the same room with Trump? They are just going by what other people in the media claim.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, if we just started running around killing people because of someone's opinion, wait a second, Democrats do that. That sounds like fascism, Matt, doesn't it? That's exactly how people on the left think. They think he's a bad person, so they have the right to take him out.
Despite the fact that they've never met him. You're right.
Yep. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. To whoever this commenter was and anyone else who thinks it's okay to harm people based on an opinion, how would you feel if your life depended on what your ex-girlfriends or boyfriends thought of you? You'd probably argue that their opinion is biased against you, right? And that we should take anything they say with a grain of salt? I'm just saying, there may be millions of people who don't like President Trump, and you are certainly entitled to your opinion. We don't like Joe Biden, but there are millions of people who do like him. If the world started taking out every single person based on the opinions of others, we would be extinct as human beings. You cannot find one person in this entire world that is liked by every single human being. Someone out there hates you. Do you want that person to decide your fate?
Yeah, we played a clip of Democrats inciting violence the last episode. You saw the reaction when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There were people actively celebrating someone's death. They were celebrating because he liked to have conversations with people. That was his great crime. You are completely correct. The left's arguments fall apart when challenged, and that is why they try to silence their political opponents. The right never liked Joe Biden, as you said, but we never tried to kill him, and we still wanted him to succeed, because the president doing well in his role is best for everyone in the country. We root for our country, and we criticized Biden because what he was doing was bad for our nation, in our opinion. We all have the right to change our opinion when new evidence comes out. Smart people can see the facts and accept when their opinion is wrong, and they can shift their position on a topic. The left accuses the right of fascism, but is unable to see the things they do are the same that previous fascist leaders did that they like to compare Trump to. For example, Adolf Hitler.
Yep. And all the stuff they say about him is so ridiculously funny and ironic, considering they'll get up and protest for no kings, but then a king comes here and we stand up and cheer for him. An actual king.
Yeah, a dictator who was actively robbing his own people. And they protested Trump being a dictator.
Yeah. And we have people in support of Iran, even though they will literally kill you in Iran if you stand up in the middle of the street and say that you disagree with the government. Does that sound like something that would happen to you in America? Do you really think Trump's going to send some goonies out to grab you off the street and literally execute you in the middle of the street? You can give me the argument that that's what happened to Alex Priddy and Renee Good, but you're just flat out wrong. They're not killing people in the street like Iran is.
No, they're doing what every other immigration enforcement agency does, but doesn't get covered. Everyone else, every country on earth, rounds up illegal immigrants and deports them outside of a couple. United Kingdom, for example. And these people were actively getting in the way of law enforcement. Not the same thing.
Yeah. President Trump also went on 60 Minutes to talk about the shooting and got pretty heated with the host when she read part of the manifesto. The nerve of her to ask him if he thinks that the shooter was talking about him in that manifesto is absolutely ridiculous.
I read a manifesto. He's radicalized. He was probably a pretty sick guy. You can see the expression on the First Lady's face. She looked very upset about what just took place. You know, why not?
And he fired off one or two rounds.
His speed was rather incredible. Actually, he was like a blur. It was amazing because as soon as they saw that, you could see them draw their guns. They were so professional, aimed their guns, and then they took them down immediately. I listened to what they said. Please drop down, sir. Please drop down. Then I got up and we went to a hold room for a while, and I tried to get them to continue the event, if possible.
You wanted to go back in.
I did. I really did.
And he also wrote this: I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people. Horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and
these are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. I do think that the hate speech of the Democrats, much more so, is very dangerous. I really think it's very dangerous for the country. I hope we're going to do it again. I'm very busy. I don't need that. I think it's very important that they do it again.
The shooter was talking about Trump in the manifesto because that is exactly what the media said Trump was. Trump is right. They have spent more than 10 years saying these things about him. He was loved by the left. He was winning awards from the African American community, but then he announced he was running for president with an R next to his name, and suddenly he was Hitler.
Exactly. As soon as you're not with them, you're against them.
Even if you're with them, Are you with them and far enough to the left? Because they cannibalize their own. You see how far the left shifts day after day.
Yep, exactly. Now, I want to talk about another headline that the Democrats are pushing. A lot of them are saying this whole shooting was staged and that this guy was just the fall guy. Just the same thing they said about Charlie Kirk's shooter. I cannot stand this argument. It's like when people say the NFL is rigged or scripted. Do you have any idea how many people would have to be in on the lie for this to be staged? How many people would you have to count on to keep their mouth shut? Take a look around yourself at all the people you know. I'd be willing to bet that you'd say that the majority of them can't keep a secret. Most people would call half their family members addicted to gossip. Not to mention, how do you find the idiot willing to risk his life and take the fall and sit in prison for the rest of his life? Where do you find that guy? Common sense is not so common.
Yeah, some people don't think things through. It's like the moon landing with NASA, and you have people that think it's false and that it was staged. It would have been harder to stage it than to actually go to the moon. You would need a lot of good people to abandon their morals and values to pull something like that off. I want you to think back, though, Mike. You remember when the left lost their minds when Ilhan Omar was attacked, and they said it was unacceptable political violence, and political violence should never be the answer, when she was sprayed with apple cider vinegar. That wasn't staged, but someone running in with deadly weapons is the attack that was staged. You cannot make this stuff up.
Yeah, and it's just like when they said that the assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, how they said that that was staged too. It's like, in no staged assassination attempt would you actually shoot at the target.
Or anyone near the target or in the building.
Yeah, and risk killing someone behind the target. Like someone actually died. Why would you even chance that? That just sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, but the ones that had guns in it where they actually shot, those are the staged ones. Not the one where the guy just brought a syringe of cooking liquid in with him, right?
Yeah, and which security guy or cop at that hotel is going to be like, yeah, I'll be the one to take a bullet? Like, who's going to agree to that? All right, Matt, let's move on to Operation Epic Fury and our Iran update. Now, we start our Iran update segment with a direct message from the administration to Tehran.
President Trump issuing a new warning to Tehran overnight, writing on Truth Social, quote, Iran can't get their act together. They don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. They better get smart soon. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting the commander-in-chief is telling aides to prepare for an extended blockade of Iran. Meanwhile, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane will testify on Capitol Hill today. They are expected to face questions about the war and the Pentagon's $1.5 trillion 2027 budget.
The message is clear from President Trump. The window for cooperation is closing. Do you expect President Trump to follow through on maximum pressure?
Yes. He knows it is in our best interest to wrap this up as quickly as possible. As I said in the last episode, he's not under significant pressure right now, but that pressure grows each day this drags on. Trump will know putting more pressure on Iran will give him the best chance of getting the deal he wants. The Iranian regime only responds when facing strength. They will always respond with terrorism when shown weakness.
Following that warning, we're seeing reports that the administration is officially dissatisfied with Iran's latest proposal. Marco Rubio has been vocal on this, emphasizing that we cannot afford to delay talks regarding their nuclear capabilities. The clock is ticking, and the current offers on the table are not good enough.
To the Middle East, the White House responding to a New York Times report that President Trump is dissatisfied with Iran's latest proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for tabling nuclear talks, saying, quote, we have been clear about our red lines, and the president will only make a deal that's good for the American people and the world. It comes as Secretary of State Marco Rubio reveals in an exclusive sit-down with Fox's Trey Yanks what he thinks the biggest hurdle to ending the war is.
What do you see as the main roadblock to an agreement with the Iranian government?
Well, other than the fact that the country's run by radical Shia clerics, that's a pretty big impediment. The other is that they're deeply fractured internally. And I think that's always been the case, but I think it's far more pronounced now.
Reports do indicate Iran has offered to open the straits, but they want to delay conversations about their nuclear program. Would this be acceptable to the Trump administration?
Well, again, I'm not going to speculate about the president's decision-making on this matter. Suffice it to say that the nuclear question is the reason why we're in this in the first place.
Right now, there are no public plans for further negotiations with Iran after President Trump scrapped meetings that were scheduled to take place in Pakistan over the weekend.
We absolutely cannot delay talks about their nuclear program, right?
That is right. If Trump wanted to wash his hands of this and move on, he could. He can easily sign a deal tomorrow that kicks this can down the road for the next president to deal with. Good for Trump, he isn't doing that. He is pushing to get this done in a way that doesn't become a problem the day he leaves office. He knows whoever the next president is will blame him for any potential issues in the region if he signs a bad deal, and the media will happily go along with that narrative.
100%. Now, President Trump also took to Truth Social to highlight what he describes as a regime in a state of collapse. Between the economic pressure and the diplomatic isolation, the narrative is shifting from what will they do to how much longer can they last.
We got a Truth post just a moment ago about Iran. We've been waiting on this, in fact. Here we go. The president's writing a few moments ago, quote, Iran has just informed us that they are in a state of total collapse. In a state of collapse. They want us to open the Hormuz Strait as soon as possible as they try to figure out their leadership situation, which I believe they will be able to do.
Do we really have any faith in Iran and their leadership to do anything to end this?
Well, I do not believe they will be able to sort this out. Collapse is the most likely outcome if we continue with the blockade. A government can't continue to survive if the engine, which in Iran's case is oil, is shut down. We have talked about Iran before this conflict even started, and the pressures were there before this war. The radical regime could always crack down on their own population. It is easier to respond when the threat to your power is on your own soil. When the pressure is coming from another nation, which under so-called international law can park a floating city 12 miles from your territory, it gets harder to respond. We do not put our carriers that close to land, by the way, but we can. The planes on a carrier can fly over 1,000 miles without refueling. Combat range is often far less, but can be extended with aerial refueling, meaning you can keep the ships further away to prevent any damage from being done.
The pressure of the U.S. blockade and internal instability has led to a ripple effect. On Wednesday, the Iranian rial hit a record low 1.8 million to $1. Iran is reportedly running out of storage space for its oil, with estimates suggesting tanks will be full within 2 weeks. Additionally, airstrikes have reportedly destroyed 25 to 30% of Iran's total steel production capacity. Reports indicate that Iran's Supreme National Security Council met recently to prepare for a potential protest wave driven by economic deterioration and a prolonged internet shutdown. Also, the UAE announced its exit from OPEC yesterday. So what exactly does that mean for oil prices, and why are they pulling out?
The regime in Iran is really struggling, and reports also say Iran is pulling old oil tankers out of retirement to use as temporary storage. The UAE is leaving OPEC because it gives them freedom to do what is best for themselves. OPEC was a group of countries that worked together to control oil prices. That meant a country like the UAE would not produce oil at rates they could to ensure the price stayed high and the profit margins were better for all nations in OPEC. There's also OPEC Plus, which includes nations like Russia, which did what they could to help work with OPEC to control the global energy supply. They work together to put the oil market in a position that is advantageous to them. What this means for oil prices depends on what the UAE actually does. Will they increase production rapidly? Who knows? The other OPEC nations still have some control over the price of oil. OPEC, when the UAE was in it, accounted for about 40% of global oil production, which is more than enough to control oil prices. The UAE accounts for 12 to 15% of that oil production in a given year, and that's leaving at the end of the month. So that's not insignificant. The UAE may choose to increase production massively, but OPEC could respond and cut production to limit the supply of oil globally. It will be What this all means will be completely dependent on what the UAE actually does once the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. Do not expect this to have any major impacts in the short term. Oil tankers are still very cautious about trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This won't make any difference for at least 3 to 6 months.
All right, well, let's move on to our last topic. Matt, it finally happened. We might finally be seeing some accountability in Minnesota.
Sources tell Fox that federal agents are raiding about 22 businesses across Minneapolis this morning, and sources say many of them are tied to Somali-owned operations. All of this comes after that viral YouTube video from Nick Shirley. It was back in December. In that video, he visited different child care centers, and you'll remember they were either closed or there were just no children inside, despite receiving state child care funding. Now, the location that you're looking at right now, it's the Quality Learning Center. This is the daycare. It went viral. It blew up on social media because of a sign outside with learning that was literally misspelled. The Education Secretary at the time claimed that the daycare received $1.9 million while, quote, masquerading as a daycare. And then shortly after that, the Trump administration announced it was freezing child care funding to Minnesota and calling for a full audit of certain daycare centers. And just checking my emails now, it looks like we got a statement from DHS sharing, quote, Homeland Security investigations in cooperation with our law enforcement partners executed criminal search warrants in Minneapolis relating to the rampant fraud of U.S. taxpayers' dollars. And as you could see there, federal agents still outside one of those daycare centers where they have been the last few hours. And all of this comes as Governor Tim Walz is expected to deliver his State of the State address tonight. And it obviously comes with a lot of questions over oversight.
Early Tuesday morning, federal agents, including the FBI and Homeland Security investigations, executed search warrants at approximately 20 child care centers across the Minneapolis area. The raids are part of a massive ongoing investigation into COVID-era fraud schemes and the alleged misappropriation of publicly funded social programs. Warrants were served at multiple sites, including the Mini Child Care Center in South Minneapolis and the Mako Child Care Center. Agents were seen removing records, taking photos, and carrying portable file cases. Some reports indicated the use of a battering ram at specific locations. Now, no arrests have been made yet. Officials describe the activity as a refocused effort to gather evidence rather than an apprehension mission. While the raids centered on daycares, some autism therapy centers and healthcare agencies were also reportedly included in the sweep. These raids follow the fallout from the Feeding Our Future scandal, where dozens were convicted of fleecing federal nutrition programs. The scrutiny intensified in late 2025 after a viral video by YouTuber Nick Shirley claimed that several Somali-owned daycares were not actually providing services. While subsequent state inspections initially found many of those centers operating as expected, federal authorities have continued to pursue the fraud leads. The ongoing scandals led Governor Tim Walz to end his re-election campaign in January of 26. Federal officials have stated that no stone will be left unturned as they investigate how taxpayer money was used during the pandemic. All I can say is, it's about time.
Yeah, finally. Keep searching, keep investigating. Fraud should not be allowed to continue. You wouldn't let someone scam you, so why is it okay if someone scams and steals from the entity that takes part of our paycheck? But the left, I assume, will go with their usual script, which is fraud isn't happening, So look the other way and you are racist if you look for fraud. I really hope Nick Shirley has great security. We don't need another Charlie Kirk incident.
Yeah, and at the center of all that, and all this fraud, and the rhetoric about how it's racist to look for it, is Ilhan Omar. Now, we talked about her $30 million accounting error a while ago. We know she's connected to some of these Somali daycares, and we found out that her wine company magically shut down after she got questioned on her finances. But this is hilarious. Ilhan Omar calls Trump voters dumb, but she actually said this.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
World War XI, Matt. Roman numerals are hard for people sometimes, I guess. But what happened to World War III and IV and V and all the other ones she skipped over to get to 11? This woman is in Congress. That is proof right there that people get votes just because of their party affiliation and not because of their brains. This is exactly the kind of education we expect from the Quality Leering Center.
Wow. She looked at two capital I's and thought they were ones. Maybe, though, she is counting all the civil wars in Africa as world wars. Just stunning to me, though, that we had 11 world wars before 1945, but none since. Humans have apparently turned the corner, huh? Ilhan Omar, to me, is a perfect example that shows people will vote for someone if they look like them. It doesn't matter how smart they are, or what they've accomplished, or what they stand for. They resemble me, so they must be good. I'm pretty confident you and I are different, Mike. We vote based on values and morals, and what plan the politician has for our area or our country, and we don't care what you look like.
Yep, totally agree. Well, Matt, we are at the end of the show. That means two things. Number one, our government shutdown counter. It is up to 74 days now. While we're talking about DHS, I saw a Truth Social post from President Trump saying that we should change the name from Immigration and Customs Enforcement to National Immigration and Customs Enforcement so that Democrats will have to call it NICE. That would be funny.
I'm all for it. You look kind of foolish if you were running around shouting, "Abolish NICE."
All right. And number two, it is blind ranking time. Now, Matt, today we're doing something a little bit different. This is not based on politics at all. This is solely based on who you like and whatever thought process that you want to use. Since we're both big hockey fans, this is a hockey-themed blind ranking. You have 2 tickets to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Doesn't matter who's playing. Blind rank these hockey players, current or former, based on who you would like to take with you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, your first one, captain of the 1980 U.S. Men's Olympic gold medal team, Michael Ruzioni.
Oh. I was thinking when you said it, it'd be active players or recently retired.
Past and present.
All right, that would be a good one. I'm going to go number 2 on that one.
Okay, starting high with Michael Ruzioni. Next up, the man who just played the final game of his career in L.A., Anze Kopitar.
I like the player. Good guy. Stayed out of trouble his whole career. I just think it'd be a little bit of a bland conversation. I have to go 4 for that reason.
Okay, going number 4. Next up, you have analyst and former player PK Subban.
That would be a fun day.
I think PK Subban would be a blast.
Yeah. He knows hockey. He reacts to things. You get a big boost of energy from PK. I'm going number 1.
Going number 1.
I think he would be a blast to hang out with.
Okay, all right. You have 3 and 5 left.
And PK is a great guy, too. Donated $10 million of his own money to a hospital for children.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, I really like PK Subban.
Big personality. That would be fun.
Yep. Next up, you got another big personality, co-host of the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, Ryan Whitney.
Oh. That's tough.
You
3
have
or 5.
5 and 3 left.
He's not really a 5 candidate. I would rather be with Biz Nasty. So it's tough.
Dang, I'm surprised by that. I thought that you weren't really a big fan of Biz Nasty.
Yeah, I like him.
Oh, okay.
No one on that podcast is my favorite.
I like Biz Nasty more, but the fact that Ryan Whitney was a Penguin.
See, I don't like the Penguins, so
that
that
would,
doesn't matter to me.
That would move the needle for me. The only thing that would turn me off to the whole thing is how he's always talking about the Oilers.
You get more personality from Biz, I think. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm going to put Whitney at 5.
Okay, going number 5. All right, and next up, your last one. Current player, the captain of the Washington Capitals, Alex Ovechkin.
He should have been 1. Well, no, he should be playing in the game. So he shouldn't be sitting in the stands with me.
I was surprised at PK at number 1. I thought you would put PK at 3 and leave 1 and 5 open. So, and then I figured you'd probably end up throwing Whitney at 5, waiting on who was going to come last. But still, that's a good list. That's a fun list. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that list. Ovi'd probably be a little more fun than Mike Eruzione, but
yeah,
you could certainly have a good conversation with all of them.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you finished Ryan Whitney 5, Anze Kopitar 4, Alex Ovechkin 3, Mike Eruzione 2, and PK Subban at number 1. So that was fun. It was nice to switch things up a little bit. All right, everyone, that's it for episode 53 of the Republic Brothers Podcast. Before you click away, please hit the subscribe or follow button. New episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.